And in 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is a special episode, and the reason is because of the changing role of pharmacist we all know about. The role transforming from a prescription focal point to truly a practice a focal point in true medication management. That holistic 360 view of our pharmacists and how in the condition, whether it be senior care, specialty disease states, rare disease states, compounding, community pharmacy, it doesn't matter. One of the things that the PPN has been excited about is expansion into all of the United States. So we're in 50 states now, of course. 82% of our entire listener base is in the United States. But guess what? There's a bigger world out there. We have 311,000 pharmacists who we serve here at the Pharmacy Podcast Network to give you the best information. But there are some amazing people out there throughout the world. I've met some incredible pharmacists in Sydney, Australia, in Dublin, Ireland, in Pakistan, in London. And so today's kind of special because we have a survey that really helps to define and support the professional role of our pharmacists associated with traditional and complementary medicines. And this really impacts every pharmacist throughout the world. One industry together, one profession together, hashtag together RX. And so I'm excited to have been contacted by this amazing, wonderful pharmacy future leader to be a PharmD class of 2024 at MCPHS University in Boston, Massachusetts. Joshua Geary, welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Thank you so much for this introduction, Todd.
So I want to just turn things over to you. Would you give our listeners, before you introduce our special guest today, supporting the analytics that and the meaning of what this survey is about, just give a short bio and a little background on yourself, and then also talk to us about this survey. We're excited to hear about it.
Well, thank you. So just a little brief biography as to who I am. I'm currently in my second professional year of doctor of pharmacy practice at MCPHS University, as you had mentioned. And I have been working as a pharmacy intern since 2018 when I went into school, primarily in community pharmacy and serving the geriatric population. So as far as upcoming plans for the next school year, I will be serving as the APHA ASPE board chair for Operation Diabetes. And I will also be completing a precision medicine program, certificate program by MCPHS University this summer.
That is exciting. What's interesting is to see so many of our pharmacy students starting to look at pinpointing where they want to go in their careers before they even graduate. I've heard of several pharmacists saying, I'm going into pediatrics within the health system space. So many of our P3s that I've talked to out of University of Pittsburgh, my hometown, want to go into community. And there have been several that have said, no, we want to study pharmacogenomics. And then there's others that talk about technology and artificial intelligence. So what a great time to be a pharmacist. Please, would you do me a favor and introduce our special guest today to really collect additional information behind this survey, which really helps us to define the supporting professional role of our pharmacists.
Yes, of course, that would be my honor. So I would first like to introduce Dr. Carolina Ng, who is the assistant professor at the Institute of Chinese Medicines in Macau, China, and she is an honorary research fellow at the Sydney School of Pharmacy in Sydney, Australia. She had completed her Bachelor of Pharmacy and Master of Health Science through the University of Sydney. Dr. Ng is a registered pharmacist in Australia and Macau with extensive experience in community pharmacy and drug regulatory agency. Welcome, Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction.
course. And I would also like to introduce Dr. Joanna Harnett, who is a senior lecturer of complementary medicine at the University of Sydney Pharmacy School. Joanna Harnett holds a Bachelor and Master of Health Science in complementary medicine, and she has completed her PhD in 2013 in the field of nutritional pharmacology. She is a fellow of the International Research Leadership Program at the Australian Research Centre in Complementary and Integrative Medicine, serving on the board of International Society for Traditional Complementary Integrative Medicine Research. Welcome, Joanna.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So I just wanted to say I am very excited to be here with all of you guys to have our long and awaited discussion on the role of pharmacists in traditional and complementary medicine. There's no better way I would like to spend our Pharmacy Friday, as Todd would say. So before we get into this discussion, I just want to hear from both of you. What is traditional and complementary medicine for our listeners?
Would you like to take that, Carolina, or are you happy for me to?
I'm happy for you to go ahead first, Joanna.
Yeah, so well, traditional medicine refers to, as the name suggests, traditional practices that have been practiced for generations across countries throughout the world, that have been codified in pharmacopoeias and in monographs and so forth. So it typically refers to the practice of using practices as well as products across those three generations, whereas complementary medicines refers to practices and products that are not considered mainstream or conventional, and as the name suggests, complement standard care. Sometimes they can be used as approached in an alternative way, but mainly throughout the world, they're used to complement rather than as an alternative. Carolina may have something else to add to that.
Well, because we are pharmacists and we are in the pharmacy, a lot of us are in the community pharmacy. And what we see is like we are dealing with a lot of herbal products and also known as complementary medicines. And, we've got many other names, dietary supplements and all. And when I was trained as pharmacist, I didn't really get to learn very much about herbal medicines or any products of herbal or origins. And but those category of products have become a very major part of our practice. Doesn't matter whether we sell in the pharmacy or we look after people who, most of the time will have, a dietary supplement use habit. So this is something that we really want to look into, whether, how pharmacists should be looking after people using the products of traditional complementary medicines.
I might just add there, in Australia, over 50% of the complementary medicines, or as you call them in the US, dietary supplements, are actually sold in pharmacy. So that is core to the work that Carolina and I have been doing over the past 8 years, is looking at that intersect between the products that are sold and then the professional practice of pharmacy and public health, and how those three spheres interconnect in a way that ensures they're used appropriately and safely.
That's interesting that you speak on how these dietary supplements, as we would call it, to be only sold in pharmacies. Is that correct?
Not only sold in pharmacy, but it is a principal source, and that is what makes it relevant to this discussion about the role of pharmacists and pharmacy practice.
Yes.
Yeah, they're also sold in supermarkets and online retail outlets and a range of other places. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying, because as of right now, what I've seen the trend is that while traditional and complementary medicines, as what we would refer to as dietary supplements, be sold in pharmacies, I feel like there has been an inclining trend in the United States of these to be sold over online from many vendors. And it's interesting because at that point, you are risking the patient of not having some sort of consultation or expert advice as to how to take this dietary supplement, any sort of adverse effects that they may see, any sort of disease states that they may have that may alter their course of therapy. So thank you for bringing that up.
I think access is a really important point, Ojashri, is the way in which people access medicines will clearly impact the information that they may receive. And sometimes that information may not be enough for those things to be used, as you say, appropriately and safely. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. So I guess next, going on to this topic of traditional complementary medicine, I wanted to understand from both of you, for formulating this survey, how did you both get involved in traditional and complementary medicine?
Well, I'll go ahead first. we started this this project a long time ago. That was actually when I started my PhD degree, and that's when I get to know Joanna, who has always been so supportive, and she's very intelligent and knowledgeable about complementary medicines, and she has been a very good advisor all the time. And we keep on our collaboration since 2014, 2015, around that time. And because, well, we both have, our background with University of Sydney, and that gives us a very good collaborative platform. And we started our journey, our research journey, started in Australia first. So we explore, what was happening with pharmacists and their practice regarding, complementary medicines products. And then it took us another 2 years before we move on to, other countries. We keep on, continue our research, and we continue to expand our scope of research in terms of, location from Australia, and then we extended to China, and then later to the US, and then now we are involving, at least 15 countries to go on board with this survey study. And we're just trying to picture what's happening with the pharmacist profession around the world, or, in as many countries as we can, get in touch with, and see, how we are dealing with this, across the board. Joanna, would you have anything to add on?
Yeah, look, I think we became very interested in this because in Australia and also in other policies throughout the world, or medicine policies, complementary medicines or dietary supplements are technically defined as medicines, and pharmacists are medicines experts. And so the need then to understand why there perhaps has been a division between the conventional or pharmaceutical products somebody may use and dietary supplements or complementary medicines became a real inroad for both Carolina and I to explore further. So we wanted to understand what were the potential barriers, what were the potential facilitators to pharmacists being able to counsel or approach their professional responsibilities in the same way. And we thought that would be actually quite a quick, we'd sort all that out and understand that in about a year. But as Carolina's pointed out, this has been quite an exploration over a number of years. And, we have identified quite clearly there are a number of barriers from a range of stakeholders, industry, government, the consumer themselves, the pharmacy profession, educational institutions, that have not really supported this role to this point. And so what we're trying to do, and where our research is now going, is saying, well, we've identified these areas that need further development and support to support the pharmacist. How are we going to do that? So just when we're on the cusp of that, let's fill the gaps, we actually thought, why don't we look at, further around the world? How big is the scope? Are we talking about just the countries we've looked at, or can we talk more generally about an international standard? And that led us to this project that we're doing towards consensus, where we are now going, well, let's survey pharmacists from all around the world to understand if what we've found and what we've identified so far is actually at an international level, rather than the 4 or 5 countries we've explored to date. So that's where we've gone from to over the last nearly decade.
But I just want to add on, like, we have been very excited that we see similar findings over and over again during our previous years of research. The most important finding is that it is a general belief or a general, acknowledgement that pharmacists have a role with regards to the proper use or safe use of complementary medicine products. I'm guessing that, we are sharing a very common view that because even though these products are natural, as much as they claim, and it's people usually perceive those products as natural and safe, but in reality, these products, like any other chemical products, they might have a potential to interact, with other medication, and as evidence have been emerging that proper use of some products or some ingredients actually can help manage some conditions. So how are we going to manage all this evidence or all this research, updated research into our practice? How to integrate those knowledge information into our practice? And I think pharmacists is in need with more support. And we found that we need, established support from, different perspective, involving a lot of, joint effort. Like Joanna just mentioned, we need a lot of attention and support from different parties, key stakeholders. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I was reflecting on what you have said, and speaking of the support that is needed for pharmacists, to be able to ensure safety, efficacy for all of our patients. I feel that it goes back to our curriculum, our education here in the United States. I'm just comparing to what we receive in terms of our pharmacy education. We have this one OTC course that's presented in our third professional year, and it's only 1 semester long. I have not taken it yet, but from upperclassmen, I feel like that itself is not enough education, knowledge to be able to, speak with our patients and formulate this time to have these conversations. I also see within our pharmacy education, there's many conversations about these complementary medicines. It will interact with this antibiotic. It may interfere with this, anticoagulant medication, but it's thrown in bits and pieces. There's no, formal sit down of where we assess, analyze, and have this open discussion and conversation for us as future pharmacists to learn and then be able to apply this information into daily practice. And that also gets me to think about the future of pharmacy. There was a time where here in the United States, pharmacists were just counting pills. And now we have emerged, we have the pharmaceutical industry, we have pharmacists in research, we have pharmacists that have gone on to, go into clinical pharmacy by, obtaining residencies. And that motivates me as, a pharmacy student, a future pharmacist, a potential residency in traditional complementary medicine that may arise with the proper support from, as you mentioned, the stakeholders and the motivation and support from pharmacists ourselves in this expanding practice. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to ask or contribute? I'm not sure if what we're saying is, if you had any questions regarding this.
So I never really like. I don't want to interrupt, the flow of the conversation between the three of you. We would like to bolt on more of a narrative intro that I'm going to work with you, to kind of like set the stage for our listeners to understand the survey and the power of kind of the collective to share it and to get it out to as many people. But no, I don't want to inject anything and throw off track your your focus. If you want me to kind of do a kind of like a wrap up, I could do that, and then we could then like direct it to people's websites and anything else that we want to suggest for connection, other than the survey link itself.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that might be great, just to actually do a bit of a focus on this current study, and the survey itself, and what we are hoping to get out of that survey, and how we need the support of the profession in the US as well.
All right, let me stage that question. I'll jump in and say something, and then turn it over to Joanna. Is that good?
Yeah, or Carolina, do you want to take that?
No, you go ahead first.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. And in 3, 2, 1. So I have a follow-up question for Joanna, and I just want to understand, so that our listeners really understand the relevance, the importance of this survey. Kind of expand upon the reasoning for it, as well as the impact from the data that you're going to be collecting moving forward.
Yeah, no, thank you, Todd. It's a good question. I know we've been talking about all things traditional and complementary medicine and past research and needs. And the really important thing is that research does continue, but that research that is really focused in a way that is going to be clinically helpful and support the profession towards a change. But as with any changes, there needs to be consensus. So our current study that we have put together, really the key aim is to build consensus amongst pharmacists throughout the world about what they believe their responsibilities are, what they're currently doing in their day-to-day practice, and how they can be best supported. So it is gathering the voice of the people, so to speak, and collectively from across, I think we have 15 countries enrolled. Is that right, Carolina? Yeah.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, so far. And we'd like that to be more. And clearly the US is a really big part of that, with, so many thousand pharmacists. I think, Todd, you said there was only 30,000 pharmacists. Is that right? Or 300,000?
300,000.
300.
Yes, 311,000 active pharmacists in the United States. But think about that. So if you have 311,000 pharmacists, that sounds like a lot, but when you have 330 million Americans, that's really not a lot. And also think, in the United States, our patients are seeing their primary care. Every time they see their primary care, they're seeing their pharmacist 10 times to that one time that they're engaging with primary care, because of how busy our physicians are, and at no fault of how hard they work to see as many patients as possible. But when you kick off that treatment, there's things that are happening in our patients' lives that change things. And a pharmacist needs to be in touch with that patient more often to assure that that treatment follows through.
Yeah, so if we have pharmacists serving 330 million people in the US alone, when we extend that on a global level, and then we look at what it is we're asking, and that is around, the use, how pharmacists intersect with their patients on a day-to-day basis around another form of medicine that is, in the past may not have received as much attention. We only need to pause for a moment to reflect on the importance of that, and the importance of getting this area developed. And it's not just to keep patients safe. That's obviously key to it, the person-centeredness. It's also to give pharmacists a sense of safety and confidence around what it is they're doing, and ensuring that we build a framework for them that they can feel confident in practicing within. Caroline, would you like to add or take away anything from that?
No. I think you said it beautifully. And from what we can see from all these experiences when we're dealing with previous research, was that with any type of pharmacy practice, professional practice, we really need to set a standard or to set our tone or level expectation, not just for ourselves to to follow, to be aware of, but to a greater extent is for the consumers of the patients to have a certain level, standard level of expectations, like what they can expect from pharmacists or what the doctors can expect from the pharmacist when it comes to the safe use of complementary medicines. So I think what our survey aims to do right now, I think it is one of the priority that we should be addressing when we really want to take this to a more serious a level of attention, is that do we have a common agreement that how we are going to practice with those products? How do we how can we better look after our patients, or even the the general public that comes through the door or comes to us pharmacists, how we are going to give them the best advice or the most evidence-based advice when they have any questions about those products. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nicely put, Carolina. That's really important. I think the other thing I'd really like to reiterate to the audience is this is a ground-up approach. And it always disappoints me when I see a top-down approach to regulation around a particular profession. So one of the aspects of the study that we're doing in the survey, and why we're asking pharmacists for their input, is because we want to know how to support them, not how to tell them another thing they have to do. And I think that's very important. Now, I'm not a pharmacist myself. I'm a pharmacy educator around complementary and traditional medicines. But my observation is that pharmacists are very, very busy people, and they have to know so much. And we don't want to put more pressure on them. But what we want to do is actually take that pressure off. And as Carolina says, give them a clear understanding of standards and expectations that they themselves set through the study that we're doing. So that is our philosophical approach to this project.
Yeah. And we also follow up with questions about what specific support they need, whether it be more education during the undergraduate program, like the basic training, or on the job training, like a continuous professional development, what sort of evidence they need, how to get access to reliable information, or how would the regulation of those products can be better address pharmacists' concerns about whether the quality and safety or efficacy are there. And even with the consumers, do we need to educate the consumers a bit better about our professional role and about the right perception of the products? So we, from the previous or from the current studies that we're doing, that we are learning a lot about what are the challenges the farmers are facing, and what could be all these enablers or facilitating factors that we need to be pay attention to. And we really want pharmacists' insight to tell us whether our understanding aligns with theirs, and how we can build our consensus together, so that we can try to get more support, more collaborations together.
Yeah. And I think it's been fabulous to have Ojaswi's lens as a more senior student in her studies, about her own experience and her views around her perceived need for more education that is integrated and scaffolded throughout her training. And those are the sorts of outcomes. Education is one aspect of the study that we're doing, and understanding educational needs. But that's a really important piece of feedback. So we'd like to hear from a broader number of people. Say, is Ojaswi's views, are they actually what we're going to hear everywhere else as well?
All right. Do you want me to close it up? You want me to kind of do a wrap up? you have anything else to mention, Joshua, or anything like that?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask to Joanna and Carolina, as we had spoken about motivating pharmacists. So do you have any specific plans or insight as to how we can see pharmacists being motivated to partake in traditional and complementary medicine?
Okay, hold on. So let's make sure that you stage that question. So I want you to, I'm going to count you down and I want you to say, hey, Todd, I have a question for our guests. And then you can kind of go right into your question. Okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go. And in 3, 2, 1.
So Todd, I have a question for our guests. So I was wondering, how are we going to motivate our pharmacists to want to partake in traditional and complementary medicine practices in the pharmacy?
Hey, that's a great question. And I think that our guests today are best positioned to answer. And that is, we are, I always say hashtag together RX. I mean, this is a global effort. We just got done coming out of the worst pandemic that we've all experienced within our lifetime. So it was the efforts of pharmacists in the United States and throughout the world that set the difference for that frontline care for our patients, for our collective support as being pharmacists within our different countries or different communities. So let me turn it over to Joanna and Carolina and just ask, I'll start with Joanna, just let our pharmacists that are listening in throughout the world understand the significance of participating in this survey.
I think, well, the significance of it is we need to hear the global voice, and we need the global voice to tell us of all the work we've done over the last 10 years is not just an academic exercise, but that it is real, it's relevant, it's on the ground, and that it's going to make a difference to pharmacists in their day-to-day practice moving forward, that they feel they have some framework and feel confident in what it is that the public are actually asking and expecting them to do. So I think the motivating factor is that people will continue to come into pharmacy and ask pharmacists for advice. And I think everybody, any health professional, wants to feel confident that they are practicing within the standards of a profession, regardless of what that medicines may be. And that's our ultimate aim. That's where we want to go, is we want to set that framework up for the pharmacist. Carolina?
Thanks, Joanna. I agree with what just Todd just mentioned, that, we see our good spirits, better spirits, the best of the spirit come out, especially during the pandemic, that pharmacists, among all the other healthcare professionals, really want to care for our people or for our community. And we really see that the proper use of complementary medicine is really a public health issue, because it really goes back to a great portion of the community that a lot of people are using them. A lot of people may not be aware of all the, current evidence about those products. And, pharmacists, as we always do, how we really protect or care or being the custodian that we have always been. Doesn't matter whether it's prescription medicines or complementary medicines, and how are we going to step up? And I think we need to know that every pharmacist care, and we hope that the survey can, help to bring pharmacists together closer to this topic. And I think there's another purpose of why we're doing the survey.
Yeah, you're right, Carolina. And my experience has been traditional and complementary medicine. You raise that at a dinner party, and it might be called dietary supplements in the US, right? You are going to get very polarized emotional responses that aren't always rational. So what we would like to bring together, and that can be actually from health professionals as well, is we'd like to bring it into a rational place as well, into, what are they? They're being used. It needs to be addressed, and pharmacists can do this together as custodians of medicine.
Thank you so much for that, Joanna and Carolina, for enlightening us and including us in your survey to further provide consensus towards pharmacists' role in traditional and complementary medicine.
Our
We
pleasure.
really have to thank you and Todd.
Yeah, thank you for the platform.
No, thank you. Thank you. You're doing the work. You're the diligence. You're the people out there helping to guide our pharmacists to be empowered through the data that you're gonna collect. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Joshua and just tell you how impressed I am with you as a future pharmacy leader and taking some initiative. That's just it. If you don't take initiative to really, move our profession forward and what the pharmacist's role actually is within so many sectors of medicine, behavioral health, addiction, obesity, heart disease, liver disease. I mean, pediatrics. I could sit here and list opportunities for pharmacists to stand up and to represent the expertise needed as the medication experts, infusing their intelligence into the modalities of treatment and care that is the quarterback of the physicians. We don't want to be physicians. Physicians, you are special people that we serve. We serve you to serve our patients. But we're the medication experts, and the pharmacists want an opportunity to help our patients, and all we need is that collaboration. So #TogetherRx, be on the lookout for our next collaborative episode. I want to thank so much Carolina and Joanna for being part of this and everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you,
been
Todd.
pleasure.
Thank you, Ashashri. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.